In this video, we will talk about evaluating functions. Let's start by putting the function into our calculator that you can see here on the left-hand side of your screen. Go to the y equals button on your calculator and let's enter 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now that you have entered your function, let's go ahead and hit graph. You can see that this is a parabola. What we're going to do in this lesson is we are going to locate points on this parabola. Now they've given me a table so that I can look at 5 specific points. These are all values of x. I'm going to find these values of x and then identify what the corresponding value of y is. So let's start with a method that we used in the first lesson. Let's skip down to method 3. Method 3 is the table. If you remember, we can access the table by doing second graph. The table is awesome. It has a list of all these x and y values that are located on our graph. Now, if we go back up to the table at the top of this page, they wanted me to find the value of x equals -2, which happens to be at the top of my table. If it isn't showing up on your table, you can use your up and down arrows to get to the value that you want to see. So I can see -2 and the y is 0. I can also see -1 where the y is -1, and 0 is 2, and 1 is 9. But I cannot see 0.5. You can actually adjust your table in order to see 0.5. Currently, my x values are counting by 1. If I want to change the settings on my table, I can do that by accessing the menu that you see above the window button. We can do second window. This is my table setup. The first line tells me where the table is going to start. Currently, my table is starting with -5. I could adjust that to any number I wanted. It's also counting by ones. This is what I want to adjust. I would like my table to count by 0.5. Now let's go back to the table. Second graph. You can see how the x values have now been changed so that they can count by 0.5. Since I would like to find positive 0.5, I'm going to need to go down to my table. Use your down arrow until you get to the value that you want to see. So here it is. 0.5 corresponds with y equals 5. Now, let's go ahead and adjust the table back to its normal counting by 1. Go to second window. I'm not too concerned about where the table is starting. I'm more concerned about what it's counting by. So let's arrow down. We'll change this, clear, and select 1. Now when I go back to my table, I can see that there aren't any decimals on my table. All right, so that is method number 1. Now let's talk about these other 2 methods that you can see. These are equally good methods for finding values of y when you're given a value of x. The first one is the calculate method. So let's clear out our table by doing second quit or second mode. That clears my screen and I can calculate now. Step 2 in the calculating method says that we should do alpha trace. If we go to that, alpha trace, you can see a pop-up menu shows up. The first item on this pop-up menu is y sub 1. That is the location where we entered our function, so we're going to select it. Now you'll notice that you're going to need a parentheses And inside of that parentheses, you will put the value of x that you want to find. So if I want to find -2, that's what I will put in the parentheses. When I hit enter, it gives me the value of y. So this point would be -2, comma, 0. To do the next one, I'll do alpha, trace. I'm going to select the first option. I have to put a parentheses down, and inside that parentheses, I will put -1. When I hit enter, I can see that the y value is -1. You could continue using this process to find every single point on this table. All right, so let's talk about the third and final method on this notes page, which is the graph. So let's go to the graph. When you are in the graph mode, you can choose second trace. This allows you to calculate a value, and it's going to be, if you know the value of x, it will tell you what the y is. So let's choose option number 1. Now, since I was given these 5 values of x, I could choose any one of these. Let's choose 0.5. When I plug in 0.5 and I hit enter, it tells me that the y value is 5. One of the things I particularly like about this method is the cursor. Not only do you have the answer at the bottom of your screen, but the cursor actually shows you where this point is located. Let's do this one more time. Second trace, choose option 1, and let's plug in a value for x. How about the last value, 1? When I hit enter, y is equal to 9. And you can see how the cursor has moved to the location of that point. All right, let's look at your activity. On this practice sheet, the equations will all be given to you, ready to put into your calculator. You will need to choose one of the 3 methods that I just showed you in order to fill out your table. Once you fill out your table, you are going to have 4 points that you can put onto this XY axis, and then you can sketch your graph. After you sketch your graph, you're done, and then you can move on to the next activity.